Good morning. It is 1:21 in the morning. The kids are asleep and I'm going to start posting more videos of me talking on my private page. I don't want to do it on the public page. That's why I give you my holistic information and some spiritual knowledge. But on my private page, I'm going to be speaking more about uh, spirituality in this whole. This is where I'm going to go into deep diving and more so giving you more intel and in-depth information. So spirit lies on me heavy a lot of the times, and sometimes when the questions come up, I go in. So I start doing my research and I start typing down and getting information, getting downloads rather, and I want to make this video to be the starter. And this first video, what I'm going to be talking about, or pretty much the overall aspect of it, is what religion took from spirituality and what was intentionally left out. I think that when we start to begin to talk about the information as far as with that, we're a little bit too much aggressive with each other. I wanted to make it to where it's understood. Everybody has their own different perspectives of what's going on as far as their faith, their religious base. So with this, I want to pretty much explain the reason why spiritual people kind of react to religious people in a certain way because of the understanding. So if you see me looking back and forth, it's because I typed down a lot of my information, and pretty much, like I said, I'm going to be pretty much referencing what I have learned over time. And as I develop, again, we are remembering, and we're going to be forever students as long as we want this realm. So it's best to get people to be aware and be knowledgeable about what's going on. So let's get started. The first thing I want to talk about is what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through each of the religions. I'm going to go through Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism, as well as Judaism. So the first thing I want to start off is with, of course, Christianity, because most of us are embedded into that religion at such a very early age. And when we come in, we don't fully understand. We always get in sense like, okay, we got to go to church, but we never really understand, like, why is this a necessity? And then at a young age, because we are wanderers, we always want to know, we always ask questions, and some things that we read when we go to Bible study or whatever the case may be, because a lot of us, we had to pretty much go to church every day. So with this, I want to just get like more in depth with it and just really talk about it, because it's all about indoctrination, but at the same time, I wanted to make it plain and clear that you're not to be to blame. You're not to be to blame, not your previous ancestors and so forth, because they didn't know. They just got this pushed on them by powers that be. But we need to make it known why everything is it is. It's too much division, and we need to come together. The only way we're going to be able to come together is to understand what is really going on, okay? So, we're going to talk about what each religion took and what they intentionally left out to get a clearer understanding of what's going on and why everything the way it is. And as I get down into my videos, it's going to get a little bit more deeper. You're going to find out why certain books was removed, who was responsible of removing the books out of the Bible. Why was it 88 and then it went down to 66? And you're going to find out that it is about the numbers a lot of the time and stuff like that too, because numbers play a real big impact. As I started going deep into the studies, it does play a very, very big part. And you're going to learn that as I go along and with these different videos to explain that. So, let's get to the religion part, okay? So the first thing we're going to talk about is Christianity. Now, what it took from spirituality. It says Christianity, like many other religions, share a deep connection with spirituality, especially in its roots, okay? It took the concept of divine love, forgiveness, and the belief in the interconnectedness of all beings through Christ's teachings. The symbolism of Christ as a spiritual leader, his miracles, his sacrifice, reflect universal spiritual truths about selfless love and transformation. Pretty much the overall understanding of that is that having the deeper connection with Christ consciousness is what allows you to get more in connected with the divine itself. Now they labeled it as like male, but remember, everything is duality, which means that it's male and female combined. So when we talk about spiritually, we say the most high or source, we put no gender on it. We don't say he or she, it's I am. It is what it is. It's the beginning and the end. It is the all to be all. Now, what they left out intentionally. Over time, institutionalized Christianity distanced itself from some of the mystical and esoteric teachings that were once integral to spiritual practices, particularly around concepts like inner awakening and direct personal connection again to the divine. This exclusion often created a separation between believers and their own spiritual empowerment, focusing more on ritual and external authority than on direct spiritual experience. Meaning that, again, we're looking outside of something that was put into us. I always say that Christians say we are children of God, but if you say that you are a god or goddess, it's frowned upon. It's a contradictory. You're pretty much saying the same thing. You are from source. You are from source. So source is embedded within you. There's no such thing as good or evil and the devil's making you do this or this is making you do that. No. Everybody has free will. And I know people have said this before, but yes, you do have free will. You make the choice to do so. I use an example of serial killers. And I know it's taboo, but when you look at those type of people, when they ask the question like, why did you do this? Why did you create such heinous offenses? And they say, I just wanted to see the thriller, which means that was an eternal decision for them to do that. You can choose to do good or you can choose to do bad. That's ultimately up to you in your decision. But again, it's free will. You choose the avenue that you want to go. So this pretty much what it's talking about is like having that spiritual awakening in you, feeling the love and the peace within yourself, being in love with yourself, remembering who you are, remembering your purpose, and then from there it guides you along the way. If you're looking at it from an external thing, then everything is outside of you, or thinking that it's something else above that's making things happen, no. It's all spirituality. It's all in the spirit. Okay? Now we're going to talk about Islam. Now what Islam took from spirituality is Islam drew from the core essence of spirituality with its emphasis on submission to the one true God, Allah. Surrendering the ego. That's very important because you must have an ego death and not make it seem that everything is right. You're not going to be correct all the time. So you must have an ego death in order for you to move along spiritually, which a lot of spiritual people have done. But with religion, it pulls you back from that. So surrendering the ego and cultivating inner peace. The practice of prayer, salat, fasting, swam, and charity, zakat, reflect a discipline aimed at purifying the soul. The Sufi tradition within Islam also retains a more mystical connection to the divine. So when you look at Muslims and you see how they pray and what they do, you technically are supposed to be doing that. That's still a part of spirituality that is separated from other religions. Again, they take parts of spirituality and leave out others. Now, what they left out with Islam Much like Christianity, the institutionalization of Islam focused on obedience, law, and ritual, which often obscures the deeper mystical teachings. Example, the practice of Sufis or by Sufis. This led to the neglect of the individual's inner journey and personal connection with the divine, reducing spirituality to external rituals and hierarchical, I can't even never pronounce that, hierarchical structures. So it takes away, again, it takes away from going from within and institutionalizing that to external forces, pretty much. Forgetting that you are the root force. And that's pretty much what a lot of this is coming from. Now we're going to go to Judaism. Now, what did Judaism take away from spirituality? Judaism, deeply rooted in ancient spiritual practices, emphasizes a personal relationship with God, Yahweh, and community responsibility. The Kabbalah, a mystical tradition within Judaism, reflects a deep connection to the unseen realms, the tree of life, and the pursuit of spiritual enlightenment. Now, what was left out? While Kabbalah and mystical teachings were once more accessible to all over time, they were reserved for the selected few, i.e., your elites, leaving the masses without a direct spiritual path. The institutionalized focus on rules and laws, the halakha, sometimes overshadowed the individual's spiritual exploration, which limited the collective's deeper understanding of spirituality. So, as Judaism does practice this, like I said, of course, the elites, those mainly the reason why they are at the top, Jewish, not Jews, Jewish people, pretty much at the top of everything is because they have the real full knowledge of what it is. But again, they only give it to a selected few of people who got the access to this particular knowledge. And it makes you wonder why, right? There you go. Now we're going to go into Hinduism. Now what Hinduism took is they retain a strong spiritual foundation with teachings about the self, Atman, the universe, Brahman, and the interconnectedness of all life. The pursuit of self-realization through practices such as meditation, which is important. You must meditate. Yoga and devotion, Bhakti, reflects an understanding of the importance of personal spiritual awakening. Now, you get to start to understand about frequencies and meditation, why it's a must that you at least do that at least 2 to 3 times a day. Or I would say if you do it 2, sunrise, sunset. If you want to do it in the afternoon, perfect. But again, this is where a lot of where you get back intact with your body. Listen to frequencies, vibrating frequencies, high frequencies that help stimulate or stabilize the mood. In the 3D realm that you live in right now, it pretty much shows you that anything can stress you out, but with a little meditation and sounds, because again, frequency and sounds does a lot. So the reason why bells have been removed, reason why certain sounds have been removed, even down to your music, the music that you listen to, from the drums, the beats, that anything that they put in, there are certain tones that can trigger your emotions. So with meditation, you can sit in silence and you can do that, which is a good thing too, because you can get in contact with inner thoughts. But if you want to change your emotion and stabilize it, tones will really bring you down. If you have negative thoughts, certain tones, certain frequencies align with that can help you calm down. And part of that is like I said, being knowledgeable of what suits you right for that moment. But standard meditation, sitting in silence, going within, taking your deep breaths in out, closing your eyes, blank out everything. Have your mind go fully white. Don't think about anything on the outside world because, again, a lot of times the external world distracts you. You want to stay with internal, black out everything, black out problems, black out anything that's going on, anything in your reality. White it out, breathe in, and just take in the energy, take in the flow. But with frequency sounds, it kind of enhances and makes it better. Now, what it left out of Hinduism is spirituality. The hierarchical structure within Hinduism, such as the caste system, has historically limited access to spiritual practices and wisdom for certain groups, hindering the collective growth of the community. The separation of people based on social status was not originally a part of the spiritual teachings, but became a system that distanced individuals from their divine essence. Remember, as we talk about, well, in my public page, the point of the information, the point of your energy, the point of your purpose is to spread amongst the collective and to help them grow within eternity. Not to keep your teachings internal, but they still supposed to go out and broaden out. Sometimes they're more so secluded, but they more so need to tend out and go out and preach these teachings out and push it out into the ecosphere. And a lot of times, that's where a lot of it gets lost when it comes down to the Hinduism. They have to let them know their divine essence. And one thing that it left out was that they needed to do that more instead of staying centered. More so staying within to themselves. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you want to make sure that the collective as a whole, if we're coming into this as a unity, we must learn this all together. Buddhism. Now, what did Buddhism take from spirituality? Okay? Buddhism emphasizes mindfulness, meditation as well, and the liberation of the mind from suffering, dukkha. Excuse me. It teaches the path to enlightenment through self-awareness, the cessation of desires, and the cultivation of compassion and wisdom. So pretty much what your inner desires are is not of importance, really. Like, what your desires is, how does your desires and how does what you do affect the masses at whole? Remember, our point here is to help the collective, one another, each individually help the collective. It's not centralized. And what Buddhism does, it says that it provides you with the awareness to seize those desires internally and to pretty much bring your gifts, your love, your essence into the world. Now, what did it leave out? In some forms of institutionalized Buddhism, the path to enlightenment became more about following doctrines, which it seems to be the downfall with a lot of the religions, and external rituals rather than a direct personal experience of liberation. Additionally, some schools of thought focused on monastic life and asceticism, which included those in the broader world who could not dedicate themselves fully to the monastic path. So pretty much, what it does is that it hinders who you are. Religion, period, out of the ones that I just spoken of, the five that I spoken of, it's hindering you from being you. It's making you look outside of you. Divine does not want you to do that. The divine puts you here to have you remember that everything is within. You don't look at a figure, because that's idolatry, which in a lot of religions is supposed to be a sin. And you're not idolizing yourself You're remembering that you are the portal, you are the person, you are the vessel to push this information out to people. But you are the vessel that maintains who you are. It's self-reflection. And not only self-reflection, as you're learning, you pass it on. You let people know, like, this is the process of going about. You want to go on and you want to have all these essences, but remember that it's not from without. And that's pretty much what the religion base is doing, is telling you to look outside of yourself instead of looking in. Again, everything is free will. And everything that comes in or that you put out and you project comes back. That's why they have such a thing as like law of attraction, as I put in my last post. In my public post about pushing out information, and whatever you push out is going to come back. So any energy that you push out comes back as well. That's why we have to make sure we ground and we protect our energy. Sometimes we could get caught up in the whole mind of trying to correct one another when we need to be educated. And sometimes approach can be better given if people understand. Now, some people willing to understand and they willing to monopolize off the religion, so they'll do what they do. But if you're really moving into the spirituality the way you're supposed to, you cannot judge the person who has been slammed with religion down their throats since they was born. They already been indoctrinated because the powers to be that set that up. Because if they really told you your true power and to look outside of you instead of in, they can't control you more. There's no bondage to that anymore, because you're looking to look within yourself to get the answers. And a lot of times that happens. A lot of times people say, oh, well, no, it's the higher being. And you see each one has their own different gods, because they represent different gods. You have your God and Jesus Christ in Christianity. Then you have Allah in Islam. So everybody has their own perspective. There's only one divine source. There's only one Most High. These different religions ultimately will create a dogma type situation, what it pretty much is. So the whole point of this is to really say they all took from spirituality, which is the root. And the religions are branches on this tree of spirituality that only give you half truths, but not give you the full thing. Now let's talk about the root now. Spirituality. What was taken by all? At the root of each of these religions stems from the same spiritual source. The same spiritual source. A universal connection to the divine, self-realization, compassion, and a deep understanding of the interconnectedness of all life. Spirituality in its purest form emphasizes unity, love, and the transcendence of ego. What was left out? Well, there's always that too. What was left out in many of these traditions was that the full embodiment of universal spiritual truths. Institutionalized religions often prioritize dogma, as I mentioned earlier, rules and external authority over direct experience of the divine. The collective spiritual potential was hindered by the separation of individuals from their own inner wisdom and the exclusivity, I can't even say it, of spiritual teachings. So pretty much, again, the religions push you to look outside for something that is pretty much in. The divine gave you everything in your DNA, in your embodiment, in your body. and to look outside of you, the wonderful creation that the divine made, is a disrespect. It's an overlook of what the divine brought you here for. To remember, you all here are for a purpose. And I want to take the approach differently because, like I said, I cannot knock any individual person for their religion because you're still tapping into spirituality, which is the blueprint. No matter how you may look at your religion or whatever your religion is, the root source is spirituality in each of your texts. From all the religions that I just talked about, the root is spirituality. Remember that. You have to remember that. Your religion didn't just come out of the blue thin air. It came from somewhere. And we're going to talk about those people who delegated these religions later on in another video. We're just getting started. But you have to look at the fact that the root of everything, the information that they got to create these books and these religions, came from spirituality. Okay? Now let's talk about the blueprint. And I'm going to end the video on that one. So the blueprint. The key to understanding the blueprint is recognizing that all these religions, at their core, stem from the same universal spiritual truth. The connection to the divine within and the interconnectedness of all life. And when I mean all life, that means to your animals, to your trees, to the water, to the grass. Everything. Everything is breathing, even when you think it's not. Anywhere that you go is breathing. If you talk to the water responds. Every time I drink a bottle of water, I hold it up. I said, this water clears me. This water protects me. This water frees me before I drink. The water feels different going in there because the water knows that you respect it and it respects you. Transfer energy, even in the smallest things that you may not even know. Everything is connected. Do not think anything is separate. Do not think that something that is so small that you may not think is significant. You think we're just, oh, you need that to hydrate. Oh, you don't really understand how deep it goes with the water. Because first of all, water is one of the first things that have been around for millions of years. Before anything else, it was nothing but water. Your land is sitting on water, you know? The parts that were intentionally left out were the mysticism, personal connection, inclusivity, damn, I can't even talk, or spiritual practice. Hindered the collective by keeping the wisdom and power of spirituality locked behind systems of hierarchy, law, and external authority. To heal and move forward as a collective, the focus should return to personal spiritual awakening. Direct experience with the divine and the unity that transcends religious boundaries. It's about going beyond the structures that separate us and reconnecting with the essence of spirituality that unites us all. So one of my challenges is going to be for a lot of the people who practice their religions. Because I'm going to come back and do another video to talk about that. But I want you now to take the initiative. There had to be a point at some point in your life, especially when you're young, because it seems like it happens when you're younger, in these institutions. You had questions. I know you did. I believe all children did, because as they're reading these books, and, you know, children minds are wanderers, You had to question certain things and say, well, why? Why? And as a young person, you were scolded like, don't you dare ask questions. Ask questions, but you know something in your spirit because spirit lives within you first before you read it in a book. Spirit is within you already. You must remember that. You have to remember that. Spirit lives within you first. You must question why are certain things that they are. Like even when I was younger, some of the things that I still talk about today in certain conversations, I say, okay, it says God created the heavens, the earth, and everything like that. But who was there to actually record this? Because remember, man wrote this book. As far as, I'm only going to speak for Christianity because that's where I have been at religious-wise. I was a Baptist. And I always question, like, well, how can somebody account for something that they didn't see or they don't know? Man wrote this book. Man has edited this book. Man has removed books. Oh, we're going to talk about that too. And the books that they removed. Those 22 books, yes. Because there was a total of 88. And now it went down to 66. 66 from 77 up to 77 is 11. 77 to 88 is 11. 11, 11. Those are angel numbers. They don't even talk to you about that part. But it's very much real. And a lot of times I'm sure people see synchronicities in their numbers, but they're not understanding. I want to get into a deeper thing with that as well. And how those numbers appear around certain times and situations. You don't call these numbers. You don't wait to look and see these numbers. These numbers just come up and then you're like, It's funny how I was just thinking about a situation and then now this number pops up because spirit is around you all the time. Spirit is, like I said, is within you and it's around you. You have ancestors. You have your archangels. You have your spirit team. And most importantly, source and the divine. And we're going to also talk about the erasure of divine feminines because it's so much put out about the divine masculines, but you need to have a balance. Another question that always came up to me when it came down to Christianity is that it was stated that Adam, the most popular name, Adam pulled Eve from his rib. No man has been able to do that since then. However, it's woman that creates life. So there's a contradiction. It's a lot of contradictions within that book, but nobody decides to question. And I think we are now in the time and the era to sit, read the book for what it is, and ask questions. People take things too much at face value and don't question the information that's in there. A lot of you are older now where you are allowed to ask questions. It's not taboo not to ask questions. I hope you ask questions. Because as you ask questions, you start beginning deeper to understand that, this don't quite make sense. Yeah, this makes sense. This resonates with me. But this don't. And why are we not talking about this? Why we're not asking questions? Why are we not holding people to the fire when it comes down to this? Understand the book itself. The book was written by Romans, which means that divine didn't put his or her hands onto it. The I am, the all that is, the Most High. Man wrote the book. So if man wrote the book, then man should be able to explain what they put in this book. But we have become so indoctrinated and we have been scolded with this book and we've been hit over our heads with the book that we no longer ask questions. However, a lot of those people who constructed these books know the truth. And it's about time they get exposed as well. No more hiding for you guys. No more. The truth must be spoken. And at some point, what made me go full blown into my spirituality and start doing research and learning, because I need to know. I need to learn. And the one thing people don't do is ask questions. Nothing wrong with ask questions. Like I said, you are a forever student in this world. You do not have all the answers. So you ask questions and then you begin to do your research. But then you start to do the comparisons of what's what. How every religion takes something from spirituality, but they don't take certain things as well. But it's like everything that they do, what I noticed from these religions, like I said again, they look outside of themselves. I implore you, if you go to my public page, I have things where you have to go out into the environment, touch a tree, speak to the trees. I have a tree in my backyard. It's a black walnut tree. Another thing that I learned about spiritually, it's a protector. I did not know that coming into this house that I had a black walnut tree. And Spirit said something to me about that. It just came out of nowhere, and I seen that. I'm like, I have one of these trees in my backyard, not knowing what it was. It's a black walnut tree. And spiritually, it shows up to certain people as a form of protection. Now, holistically, it kills like the parasites in your body. You have to make sure that it's at its brightest green. Once it starts turning dark and stuff like that, it's starting to die out. But when it's at its brightest green and you do the proper things to it, it helps the parasites in your body. But spiritually, it's a protector of your household, of you. And all this time, I was going out speaking to the tree. Every time I go out there, I was like, hi, touch my hand. And the tree touches my hand. It happens. I began to evolve with talking with the elements as well. I started doing the air. And I got to the point where, as a beginner, I guess because it's ancient knowledge and it's just remembrance, a lot of things I say internally and it comes to fruition. That's because I'm getting deeper and deeper and deeper into my spirituality that I am now practicing with the elements. I did it with fire, I did it with water, and then I did it with air. You don't know how much of an amazing feeling it is to know that I had this type of energy, this power within myself, because now, besides doing the teachers, now I'm doing the practices of it, and I'm getting more into its nature. I'm an earth sign, so being out in the environment, being in parks, walking the grass, and even walking the grass, oh, the feeling of that. Once you walk in grass, just for a little bit, you get the grass up under your feet, you come feeling anew. You feel so different. Like if you could be stressed out, stuff like that, you walking on the grass just for a little bit, bare feet. You wake up with a whole different mindset. Your temperament is not what it is. Like I could be calm, but walking that ground makes me calmer right in front of my house. And once I started grounding in front of my house, as I was getting into my spirituality, a lot of things started happening. When I started talking to the air, and the air started to react, I started seeing crows. I started seeing gangs and fleets of birds. Spiders started coming around. A spider web formed itself. Well, it didn't form itself, but a spider formed a spider web in my front lawn where I actually ground. And that's the ancestors letting me know that they are surrounding me at all times. So I'm protected. And feeling in that protection just makes me more secure and make me know like I'm back home. I'm coming back to self. I'm starting to understand. Until you experience certain aspects of the blueprint spirituality, which these religions came from, you will never understand this feeling. You will never understand how it feels to touch the tree or to speak to a tree and it actually reacts to you with genuine heart, because the elements, the outside, the environment knows your energy, your aura. And if you're coming with good intent, you're coming with a good heart, it reacts to you. It's a beautiful thing, So I'm going to leave this on this part. We talked about the 5 religions, what was taken from spirituality, what they intentionally left out. Then after that, on the next go around, we're going to be talking about the canon keepers. The canon keepers are the church councils, the Roman authorities, and the translators who deliberately cut, rearrange, rename texts into these doctrines. Okay? Why they removed the books. How them removing the books actually took away the information that I'm talking about now is with connecting with self. The wisdom of the divine feminine. Like the Apocrypha. Suppressed Gospels. Oh, we're going to get into it deep. Okay? But I just want to leave you with this because right now, this is a lot right now. I'm already going on 41 minutes. Well, going on 42 minutes, rather. 6. Oh, that number. That number as well. We want to get into that as well. But I hope with this, to the family collective, understand what I'm doing is coming from a genuine spot, and it's to teach you about what you have been taught, what you grew up on, but ultimately for you to research your religion. We've been embedded with this at a young age, but we never now, and when we question, we got shut down. We're at an adult age where we now should question. Where did this book come from? Why was this book created? Why did they feel the need to remove books out of here? Who gave man right to do that or touch a holy document in that book? Why aren't you more upset about it? Because they took something away from you that is so precious, so needed, so endeared, that you just decide to look away from it. And nobody asks questions. And that's one of my main things I say too. Nobody asks questions anymore. It's like you can know the text front to back, you can know all the things in there, but you really don't know. You got cheated out of valuable information in these books. So, and I say this because I see a lot of Christians come at spiritual people saying, oh, they're devil. No, we are the purest form of it. You don't even know half of what's going on with your book. And why is it that you're not questioning or getting upset about the fact that the powers that be stripped you from knowledge that you were supposed to have? It's not us. We went in and we did the research and we realized we asked those questions and we researched those questions and we said now we know why. It's power in the text. It's very much power in the text. Especially for our kind, you know. They hated for us to learn how to read, but they made sure we read that Bible. We knew what that Bible was about. Nobody never questioned that. They didn't want us to be educated. And you have to ask questions why. Why? And this is just a genuine question. Like, it's not egotistical, because like I said, I had my ego death. There is no ego with me at all. I had that. And each day as I get more and more in tap with the spirit, more and more in tap with the divine, and more going to my purpose, because I didn't know that this journey was going to take me where it's taking me, but it is. And it's like each time I'm being signaled to learn something different. up with this because with the religions, and especially on TikTok, it's like you see all these Christian things and everybody saying that they this and everybody saying that they that. At a certain point, no, 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 no. You cannot be replicated, and the person that you're claiming to be cannot be replicated. You're not the second return of that person. Because just like you, there are a million others, thousands others, and so forth. They're saying that they're the same thing. No, you are your own individual. You have your own person. You are your own person. You are your own spirit. Remember, you reincarnate. If we are energy, and as scientists say, because remember, they still got to tell you truth, energy can neither be created nor destroyed. All we are in is in an avatar vessel. You're going to transfer into something else. You have to understand that, because I think that y'all think, oh, we die, we go here, this, that, and the third. No, 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 no. What happens is that if you don't learn a lesson in this lifetime, you're going to be reincarnated back into another individual or something else to learn a lesson again. Because see, you're here for a purpose, and you have not learned yet. You have not learned your lesson. So I think what I want to do is approach it from not an attack mode, but an understanding and a learning. Educational purposes only, of course. But also to look into these things. Look up esoteric. Look up these things. Really read your books, not at face value. It's deeper. It's deeper than what you think. And like I said, as I go through it, I'm going to educate you. Like I said, again, this is for educational purposes only, TikTok. Okay? This is the first video that's going to be on my private page. It's for educational purposes only. Just getting people to think outside the box. I hope you take heed to what I say, and Grand Rising, Ashe.